Hi, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stiltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, I've been focusing my attention on getting to know the remarkable women pioneers of New France. I started off with Les Filles du Roi, and now I'm doing a series as well that is called Les Filles à Marier, and we'll get to know a little bit about their stories. Each of these remarkable women has woven a tapestry of just incredible strength and bravery, and I think permeate the DNA of anyone who can claim them as a descendant, because they were just truly remarkable. And that is my goal in honoring each of their lives. Some of them live really, really tragic lives, and others just kind of more mundane, but each one of them is special. But before we get started, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know: subscribe, like, and notify. And then the others are ways to help the channel grow. We have Coffee and Patreon. We have my YouTube, super thanks. And we also have my website, Have Roots Will Travel, where you can click on the PayPal button and do a donation there as well. So any and all of you who have donated to this moment, thank you ever so much. Your support of me has meant the world to me. Thank you ever so much. So let's get started, shall we? Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Les Filles Mariées. This was a period between 1634 and 1662. These were ladies who came individually. Sometimes, a few ladies would come on a ship. But by and large, they were individual. They were not a part of a group. They were not signed by the government. They came of their own adventurous spirit and their need to establish their own lives. And the fact of the matter is, les filles mariées, the marriageable girls, as we call them in English, were about 10, and they averaged about 10 a year. So that wasn't enough to really populate a country. And this is why Les Filles du Roi eventually replaced these ladies. But ultimately, we owe a debt of gratitude to these filles mariées because they paved the way. Many of these filles mariées, their descendants would go on to either marry Filles du Roi descendants and intermingle, or alternative. Today's episode, number 68, Catherine Crampon, comes to us from a viewer request. I do not have her in my files. So let's get to know Catherine a little bit better. Born in 1638 in Paris, she is part of the 6th arrondissement, and her church was the Saint-Sulpice parish. Now, the Saint-Sulpice parish has existed since it's only slightly smaller than Notre Dame, and so it becomes the second largest church in the city. It's dedicated to Sulpicius the Pious. The construction of the present building church on the site began in 1646. So she was actually part of the first church, if you will. So that's kind of neat that she is part of history. The 6th arrondissement, called Luxembourg, where she is from, is an extremely educational and cultural area of Paris. It is in the name Luxembourg and remember, arrondissement is how Paris is laid out, so you can see its little circles all around. And Luxembourg refers to the seat of the Senate and its garden, which is situated on the rive gauche, the left bank of the river Seine. It includes world-famous educational institutions, as well as a concentration of some of Paris's most famous monuments. And ultimately, the Pont des Arts, which links the 1st and 6th arrondissement over the Seine. So this is a very, very prestigious arrondissement. It's played a major role throughout Paris and is well known for its cafe culture and revolutionary intellectualism. Think about Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, that sort of thing. And with its world-famous cityscape, deeply rooted intellectual traditions, and extraordinary history, this arrondissement has long been home to French intelligentsia. And so it is known as one of the richest and most expensive areas of Paris to exist, if you will. So it's not necessarily a place where you could easily, kind of disembark, if you will. Now, in her time, in Catherine's time, I'm certain that it wasn't this, but this is what it came from. So its essence, if you will, come from the fact that Saint Sulpice was a huge monument church, and so would have everything around it would have had that touch of class, if you will. And that is what I think of when I think of Catherine. Now, she did get married to a man named Louis Pepin, and she was widowed. So she was a widow before she came to New France. She did not have any children that we know of. New France in 1662, one of the last Filles mariées before the program of Filles du Roi began. So that's kind of an interesting twist as well. You would select, and who would select her? His name was Pierre Voyer, and he was born in 1633 in a commune called Marolles-les-Vaux in France. His parents were Pierre Voyer and Marguerite Turgeon. The region of France that he is from is Pays de la Loire, and inside the Pays de la Loire, it is the département or county of Sarthe. You can see Marolles-les-Vaux is there in the little sign that I found. And the church is the Église Saint-Remy, which dates from about the 12th century. There were about 2,000 people that lived there. It's a very small little place. And now it has been combined many times. It's actually the commune has been recreated. So now it is known as Disay-sur-Ballon. And so, that's the thing about France, that you need to always know how often they merge, and they keep merging. It's like they're cleaning house all the time. So it's kind of a unique perspective. We have places here in North America that just, their names never change. In France, they change a lot. So you really need to check the towns and that sort of thing and the history of each town before you embark on your journey. So they were married at Château Richer on December 1st, 1662. Now let's talk about where they settled, Château Richer. The history of Château Richer is kind of one that follows Quebec, actually. In 1626, Samuel de Champlain established Château Richer as the first farm in the St. Lawrence Valley to feed the people of Quebec City. Jean Bourdon's map of 1641 is the first mention of the name Château Richer, referring only to the cape or headland on which stands the present church, which you can see right there. It's a beautiful church. But the origin of this name remains uncertain. In 1646, Olivier Le Tardif, Lord and Chief Prosecutor, granted 20 concessions, or land grants, to the inhabitants of Château Richer so that they could officially establish themselves. In 1678, the local parish was formed, named La Visitation de Notre-Dame, and by 1753, Château Richer became the very first organized village in New France. And it truly is one of the first rural parishes in New France, and many of the oldest families in Quebec first settled here. Even today, a fairly large segment of the town's population can be traced back to these pioneer families. And the town stretches for several miles alongside Route 138, which this road was originally known as the King's Road. So this is where they established themselves. In 1666, we have Pierre and Catherine, we have François and Robert, their two sons. Then we have, now this is very interesting, and I want to draw your attention to it. I had to look for this a lot because obviously Charles and Pierre are not the same person, obviously. She didn't get divorced, all is good. But what happened is that they transposed the names. So Pierre Voyer is listed in another place. It's one of those, mistakes that you see. And, nothing is perfect. But it doesn't mean that he was dead. No, he's still alive. And he was there. And Catherine is there, François Robert. And then they have a domestic. They have 4 beasts. And they own 9 enfants malades. So Charles François is actually the name of Pierre. It's actually Pierre Voyer. And so you just have to kind of roll with it. When you're looking at research, you have to say, okay, that's what he meant. He made a mistake. They crossed out the wrong name, that sort of thing. Remember, they didn't have a computer. They were writing the names down. So that is the 1667 census. He would go on to have 12 children. François, who is featured in the 1681 census, we don't have any more information on. Robert would marry Marie-Madeleine Trépanier and have 3 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Marie-Madeleine would marry Hilaire Bernard and have 5 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Barthélemy married Marianne Jobidon and had 3 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Françoise, as you can see, was on the 1681 census, but we don't know what happened to her after that. Pierre would marry Marie-Madeleine Lefebvre and have 3 children, 2 of whom would make it to adulthood. Anne would pass away at the age of 5 years of age. Catherine would marry François Bélanger and have 13 children, 6 of whom would make it to adulthood. Geneviève would pass away at 4 years of age. Alexis would pass away at 13. Marguerite would marry Jean-Baptiste Hardy and have 13 children, 6 of whom would make it. And then the second Marguerite, and remember, they would name their children Marguerite and then usually a second name and that sort of thing. And she would pass away before leaving any descendants. Now in the 1681 census, we see Pierre and Catherine, and then their children, François, Robert, Madeleine, Barthélemy, Françoise, Pierre. Anne has already passed away at this point. And we have Catherine, who we see her, Catherine, 8 years of age. Alexis is there. Geneviève has passed away. Marguerite, the 2 Marguerites are not there yet. And so we have 1 gun, we have 8 bêtes à cornes, which is 8 horned animals, and 30 arpents malades, about 25 to 26 acres of land. A lot. He would pass away first on the 14th of November, 1695. He was 62 years of age, and he is buried at Château Richer. He and Catherine would have been married almost 33 years upon his passing. Catherine herself would pass away almost 4 years later on July 6, 1699, at the age of 61, and she is buried at Ange Gardien. She would leave us with an astonishing, because you can see that while they had 12 children, not all of those children produced a lot of descendants, but still a remarkable achievement. By 1729, she would leave us with 135 descendants. Just remarkable. Sometimes when I'm doing these episodes, it's amazing the lives some of these ladies live, where it's just like an episode out of Dynasty or Dallas. It's just too much. And every now and again, I get more of a quiet, sustainable, here I come and I do the thing. And that's what Catherine was all about. She came from Paris and then arrived in New France, helped settle Château Richer, eventually was married and had those 12 children and left us with a legacy of 135 descendants, and would pass away. And was married to her 1 husband for 33 years. So just amazing steadfastness and determination, and just an ability to thrive in a very, I'm sure was very different than her native Paris. So thank you, Catherine, for your contribution, for your sacrifice, and for your dedication to building a new country. And I also want to thank my patrons and supporters and viewers. Thank you, all of you, for being there with me as I build this channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on episode 69. Until then, au revoir.